All right. Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Friday's Mortgage Coach Mastermind. I am Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, and on behalf of Dave Savage and the entire Mortgage Coach crew, welcome to another Friday Mastermind. As you know, this is all about you. So whether you're watching this in Zoom or whether you're watching this on Facebook or you're watching the recording later on YouTube, give us your comments down below. We'd love to have this be Mastermind style. And I'm really excited about this. You all know that Dave, Deborah and I have been making a big push this year to really talk about kind of playbooks. We did financial planner and CPA work, playbook last week where we actually interviewed Dave. We did the new loan officer playbook where Dave interviewed me. And then we've done countless other interviews in between. And so we're always super excited then to bring on new folks. But of course, joining me today as my co-host is none other than Deborah Bird from Plug and Play SM. How are you doing, Deborah?
I am great. We're about to kick off a content day, so I may have to leave a little early on this call, just FYI.
I heard that rumor. In case you guys wonder what that is, just go over to plugandplaysm.com and you can learn how you can fly into Dallas and record content all day long with Deborah and her team. That is super cool.
I'm excited because we have Tom Romanello coming in today, and he is a big time Win by Noon user as well. He bought all his branches.
Yes, Tom is a big supporter. He's got his crew all working on it. And so it's always great to have you here, Deborah. You ask such great questions. And so Deborah will be making sure that as we go through here, and I really love the title of this conversation. It's someone that I just met this morning before the call started, but someone that I followed for a long time primarily because Dave is a big fan and Dave has encouraged me to do that. But we've got Coach Mike White here today. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Todd. Hi, Deborah. It was great to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And so we kind of teased this up on how to reorganize your business over the next 2 years, right? It doesn't matter where you are in the country, your business today, no doubt looks different than it did 1 year ago, or even maybe 1 month ago. And so Mike, you've really kind of set this up with the idea of, hey, what would you do now to reorganize your business? Kind of where would you go? So let's kick it off. How do you want to start?
Well, Todd, it's really interesting, and you got to go back a little bit before you move forward, right? You have to think to yourself with the pressure of all the things that are happening and the changes and trying to figure out what direction to go. You got to kind of go back and say, hey, let's go back to just February of 2020. If you and I were having this conversation in February 2020, and I laid out for you all the things that were going to happen over the next 2 years to get to where we are today, you'd turn off this, podcast, the webcast and recording in a second because you wouldn't believe any of it. The things that have transpired over the last couple of years in all aspects of our business have been really a lot to absorb. And whether it's consciously or subconsciously, people have had to deal with the things that were the opportunities, and many of those opportunities presented themselves. You really didn't have to go looking for them to happen. The big picture was rates were falling, people were interested in either buying a house or refinancing or whatever it was, and the ability to generate those opportunities became easier and easier to deal with. They took less and less of your time, less and less of your focus. There was less and less that you really had to do because it just worked, right? The old expression, everything works and nothing doesn't, really came into play. And I think some of the fundamental pieces of people's businesses, kind of fell off because it was a self-generating momentum play, if you will. And then you've got all the people that came into this business the last couple of years. And, again, 50, 60, 70, 80% or more refinance oriented business. They're now stepping up and looking and say refinances have fallen off. And here we are in the purchase arena. And they're trying to get their footing as to what do they do with their time and what is the best use of that time and what direction do I go in? And I think while that can be scary for some people, I don't believe personally it's as complicated as a lot of people will think it is, because I think once you know what you can do and what you will do, it is a simple process. There's nothing easy about the mortgage business, but it can be incredibly simple if you take the time to simplify it.
I love that. Not easy, but it can be simple if you take the time to simplify it. I know a year ago, I was sitting in my Airstream working outside in the sun in New Orleans. It was a beautiful time. And if you would have said that it was going to be like it is today, that's crazy. And I just love that word. I wrote down the word fundamentals, right? You talk about fundamentals, and I know that's one of the things that you teach a lot. So then how do you start out? So if someone's saying, okay, I haven't taken the time to reorganize my business yet, how would you encourage them to start?
Well, again, like everything else, and we take into consideration here the fact that everybody's business, everybody's market, everybody's skill set and what they have available is different. And one of the things that I've always done in my business is taking the time to assess where are we, right? Where am I? What am I trying to accomplish? Because what will work for some person may not work for another person. And even if it would, if the markets were identical, you're dealing with different people. And so, it's the either or, right? I either don't know what to do, so I can't be successful, or I won't do what I need to do, so I won't be successful. And so for me, when it comes to the coaching aspect of things, I've always put out there, here are all your options. And what I do as a coach is realize that no two people are the same. They don't have the same abilities. They don't have the same desires. But what I do know is if you can find a handful of things that they will do, that they like to do, it makes it incredibly easier for somebody to help organize and structure. In your book, you've got, Win by Noon. Well, the title itself explains the whole world, right? You got to figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish and then give yourself a date or a time as to when it's going to happen. Now, you can argue the premise, does everybody need to win? And does it really need to be done at noon? But the reality of it is you've taken a position. We got to define what win is, right? And if they really won by 1 o'clock, would the world come to an end, right? It goes back to looking at this and saying, you've got to put options out there for people. They've got to understand how it works for them. And then you've got to put them into a schedule where they feel comfortable. And I think not a lot of people spend enough time understanding their schedule and what they do and how long it takes to spend most of their day being proactive. And I think, again, as you have taught, and I think if anybody's on this call and hasn't read your book, I think they need to double down and read it. And if you haven't read it, go, or if you have read it, go back and reread it, because now more than ever, being focused and being proactive on what you're trying to accomplish, is imperative. And so to me, you've got to look at this and say to people, you've got to do an assessment of where you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and what you're willing to commit to. And if you start with that premise, it's almost impossible not to be successful.
I love that because, I think with just even the evolution of technology, the internet, social, I have a lot of conversations daily and weekly with loan officers that get this overwhelmed feeling of, how am I supposed to run a mortgage practice, whether there's multiple loan officers underneath them or just a new loan officer getting started? And you talk about those activities that, must be done to be successful, but then they carry this heavy weight or burden thinking, but I also need to be on social, but I also need to be doing this and I need to be doing this. Like, how do I get it all done? It just doesn't seem like there's enough time in the day to be proactive or to be super focused, because the task list in their mind has just gotten bigger and bigger, where technology has helped streamline some of the mortgage process, but then there's also taking the time to learn those tools. And sometimes you have to slow down, learn the tools so that you're executing and using that tool in the most effective and efficient way, so that you can then start adopting other practices that you layer in. So is there strategies that you provide, or what would be your advice on people who are taking on new systems and the time that's needed when they don't feel like they have the time to devote to executing it fully.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think really what has to happen is you've got to schedule it, right? You've got to make the commitment to say to yourself, and start out wildly, old pen and paper, write it down. What is it you want to accomplish, right? What are the things you talk about? Social media, you talk about making that presence. I need to be there. Okay, great. So that's something that I need to do. It's something I want to commit to. The Mike White playbook says, okay, when are you going to pay attention to it, right? You always have to know, what am I trying to accomplish and what am I committing to do that? It may take a week, it may take a month, it may take a year. I've got loan officers that a year ago couldn't bear to think about doing something like Facebook Live or doing a frequently asked question video or any of those things. That they're petrified of being in front of a camera. And I say, hey, look at me, right? I'm on video all over the place. And if the world hasn't run away, right? If the people are not turning it off, they're listening to what I have to say because they think it's of value. So always look at, how does this present value to me, to my client, to my referral partners? When you look at and realize that there's help. You've got a business where you say, hey, you want to come in and spend the day, shooting video and doing so. You're right there. I don't know social media. All right. You know social media. Good. I just have to know you. Right. I don't know all of the things. And when it comes to the mortgage business, I don't know everything. I make a living helping people work in the mortgage business. People often ask me questions I don't know the answers to. And I say, you know what? That's a great question. Let me find out the answer for you. I've got no problem saying that. And I think people put themselves under this great deal of stress because they feel it's an instantaneous society. A text message happens right away. I've got to be live with this. I have to do that. I get thousands of views on the videos that I do, and virtually none of them happen when I'm recording it or doing it live. Dave told me about a video that we did together in 2016 or 17. And he says, I can't believe it. I went back to look at that video because people started watching it. We got like 40,000 views on that video. It's 2017. And, 480 people watched it last month. So, we get back to fundamentals. Yes, social media, it's become a fundamental. You got to acknowledge that it's a fundamental piece of the business. And you have to learn to a certain degree to adopt certain principles. Do you have to be in social media 24/7? No, you can't possibly be. Can you commit 10 or 15 minutes twice a day to staying connected? Well, virtually everybody can if you plug it in. And I think that is the critical mass here. I may want to have 12 hours worth of video recorded by you, but the point is, I'm not going to record 12 hours worth of video in one day. See, and that's the thing. I have to understand. It's like eating an elephant, right? This practice is eating it. It's constantly eating the elephant. And the only way you consume it is one bite at a time.
What I love that you said that really resonates for me personally with what I do is the instant gratification piece, where people will do, and if the results aren't there quick enough or fast enough, they will give up or quit. And so I often refer to Todd and Dave when they committed to doing these webinars twice a week. They're my go-to example because I tell clients, I'm like, look, do you think when Dave and Todd first started doing these mastermind calls that, their group, it evolved? They've been like, how long have y'all been doing this, Todd? Is it 10 years, 5 years?
We've been doing this Friday Mastermind for over 5 now.
Okay. And so I tell people, I'm like, do you think and even when we go live now, there's, I think, 12,000 people in this group for Mortgage Coach. We maybe have 20 to 100 live at that time, but the real goal is then when it's repurposed and it's, uploaded to YouTube. And like your point, what you just said, Mike, you went back and looked from 2017 and how many views have you gotten since you took that one action back in 2017. And so I feel like a lot of times we know the fundamentals and the activities that must get done, but we'll quit too early because we don't have the instant gratification. And I'm just going to make my plug for Win by Noon. This is why I still use my Win by Noon planner. today because I track my activities and I know if I do these activities daily, every day, the results will come. But all I can control, like on the calls, how many calls did I make? I can't control if somebody else answers the phone.
Right.
I can control my attempts. And I know because it's proven with the analytics and the conversions, if I make a set number of calls each day, the results will come. And then the real beauty is then when I track it and I see, okay, where are the gaps? Like where if I make just a small tweak, could I increase my conversion just a bit? And then, that grows. But if I only focused on results, I should really tell myself this with exercise. Maybe more people could relate to that. It's like, I don't know why with men, they could go work out for 2 weeks and they've lost 10 pounds. A woman, so any ladies on this, y'all give a like if you agree with me or comment. We can work out in the same way, eat the same thing for 2 weeks and we don't lose weight. And so I'm like, I don't even know why I'm still doing this. I think I'm just going to go back to eating my donuts and cookies and not work out because the results aren't there. And I feel like that example is, it shows up in our business. And so those daily activities, those fundamentals that you're talking about is essential, and don't get caught up in the instant gratification where you give up.
Well, and so much of that perspective is the fact that, think about this. We in the mortgage business deal with on an ongoing basis. It seems like Monday's no different from Tuesday, which was no different from Wednesday, which is no different from Thursday. It's this homogenous mass that I wake up in the morning, I'm a loan officer. I go to bed at night, I'm a loan officer. It's this constant thing of looking at my phone, checking my email, doing this stuff that we're doing. And we don't give ourselves what the win is. And I said a little bit about what Todd was, what is the win, right? Excellent point to the fact that you've got to believe that if you've got 25 tasks that you're supposed to do that day, and you schedule them and you execute those tasks, regardless of the result, you won the day, okay? Results take care of themselves. You can't force a result. Nobody in this world that's ever tried to force a result ever had any longevity. It's never going to work that way. You have to be prepared to be committed to saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this effort. I'm going to do it. I'm going to commit to it for this period of time, regardless of what the results are, until I get to that point where I was committed, right? It's like the gym membership that you talk about, right? Everybody you go to any gym on the world on January 2nd, and you can't find a parking spot and there's no equipment to work on. You go to that same gym on February 2nd, you park right up front and everything's available, okay? The gym didn't stop working on January 31st. The people stopped, see? And with this part of the business, you've got to understand, you're either going to move forward over the next couple of years as we shift out of this heavily weighted refinance opportunity into what is, and it doesn't get enough play, this really excellent purchase arena that we find ourselves in, although people find excuses to be disappointed in it. But you've got to be in a position where you're saying to yourself, modify what the win is. You said, if I have 15 phone calls to make, I don't control whether they answer the phone. So give yourself the win. You made the 15 phone calls. That's all that has to matter, is that you put out the effort, because the results will never be instantaneous, not to your satisfaction. And I see it all the time. Yes, do I have occasionally people go out into this world and the first time they tell somebody they're in the mortgage business, they get a $500,000. Oh, goody, you're in the mortgage business. I'm buying an $800,000 house. I need a $500,000 loan. Can you handle that? Yeah, that'll happen. But you don't want to hold your breath until it does. And I call it the rock and the sledgehammer, right? You've got to look at this like you've got this big boulder in front of you, and your job is to break that boulder up into manageable pieces, and you're going to whack it with a sledgehammer. There's a chance that you're going to hit that boulder once and it's going to turn to dust. But more than likely, you're going to have to keep banging on this thing for a while before it starts breaking up. Because when you get that first crack, now all of a sudden, banging that rock is not as hard as it used to be, because all of a sudden the rock gave you just a little bit. And that's what I'm talking about here, is to all these people who don't know, it's okay not to know. We all at some point don't know, and then we evolve. And this business is going to continue to evolve. Well, how many years ago was it before social media was anything? I started in the mortgage business, and I hate it, before most of the people watching this were born, okay? You know, we did paper loan applications. It took 2 weeks for a credit report to show up. The fax machine hadn't been invented yet. Okay, so wrap your minds around that stuff. Somehow we managed to do business. And now we get into, you know, I was running around talking about the use of video in 2010. Everybody said, yeah, it's a fad. Not going to work. Don't need to waste your time buying all that equipment. And now, whether we like it or not, the pandemic brought us, everybody's used to Zoom calls. Everybody knows how to do, why? Some of it was a natural progression, but some of it was forced upon us because we just had to acclimate. And I think, don't overthink it. The faster you can simplify whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, the more comfortable it is for you to do, and the easier it is to help others. Because you can be the only social media expert for a company with thousands and thousands of people in it. Those thousands of people don't need their own person. They just need the one you. You can handle that. See, that's the point. Don't reinvent the wheel. Somebody's probably figured out most of the hard stuff already.
You're definitely speaking all my love language here. The words commit, proactive, schedule, all those things. So what would you tell the people who are watching who want to just have you tell them, okay, Mike, what is it? What's my next step? What am I going to do Monday when I get in the office in order to get this new plan going for, you know, the rest of this year and going forward?
I think personal assessment is the biggest piece of this, right? It is really, where am I now? And what are the tools that I have at my disposal? What are the things that I'm afraid of? And what am I going to do about it, right? And so much of this is easily written down and identified to say, okay, here are the things. And you probably have a lot more of the things that you need to be successful and to move forward than you think you do. And it's a matter of connecting some of the dots. It's a matter of setting up how these things help me in other avenues, right? We had the conversation before that we started recording. We talk about Mortgage Coach, right? And it's like, okay, so many companies have Mortgage Coach and so many people have Mortgage Coach. And what's the adoption rate of the people in that company? And what's the frequency of use? I remember when Dave first was out there and him and I first started talking about it, like everything else with a new company, you've got some really good loan officers. Could you show them this product and see what they think, right? And it's okay. And they first start out by saying, oh my God, it takes so long to get it all set up. And then I have to do this. And then he had the videos and it took me an hour to get the whole thing worked up. And I said, yeah, but after you did 25 of them, how long did it take? Oh, it only takes me, 5-10 minutes at the most, and I'm in and out. Oh, so wait a minute. The first time you wanted to do something, it took you an hour. You worked at it for a little bit. And after 25 or so, TCAs with videos, they take you 5 or 10 minutes. That's much more manageable, right? Loan officers are sitting here. They don't often know their own math. And that's the one thing that just drives me crazy. They think they know their numbers, but they don't really know them. It's one of my favorite questions to ask people: how many people in your database? And, oh, I don't know, 300, 400, 500. Well, there's a hell of a lot of difference between 300 and 500, right? How do you have that information? What are you doing with that information, right? I've got some loan officers with 500-person databases who generate 100 referrals a year out of those 500 people in that database. And they grow their database at 20, 30% a year. I've got other people who tell me they got 5, 6, 7, 10,000 people in their database, and they may get 1 or 2 referrals a year. Where's the disconnect, right? What are you not doing? It's like the old adage, if you're not keeping connected to people, and for God's sakes, you don't want to be sending your 5,000 person database mortgage information every day, because that's the fastest way to get them to disappear out of your life and ignore everything. It's about providing value, right? I went out there with video with people, again, 2010, 2012, I was working with people around the country doing video couponing, right? I didn't have anything, the videos had nothing to do with the mortgage business. The most successful loan officer I had with video coupon, the first coupon for a male loan officer was with a woman in a nail salon because he used to get manicures, right? And I told him, go to the woman where you got your manicure and ask her if she'll do a video with you to give you a coupon for anybody who says, Mike, the mortgage guy, you'll do a manicure and a pedicure for 29 bucks. And he says, really? I said, yeah. So he did a 1 minute and 30-second video with the lady from the nail salon, and he generated 15 loan applications in the first 6 months. Why? Because he sent out something of value to people in his community. Did everybody want that deal? No. But he got half of those loans from the lady in the nail salon because people would walk in and reference the coupon, and they'd go, and she'd sit there and say, mortgage was burned into her mind. He's sending all this business to me. Well, what better place than a nail salon to know somebody's moving, somebody's whatever, doing different things. And now she's got top of the mind awareness. See, the power behind video is top of the mind awareness. It's not plugging your rate. Oh, by the way, you want to plug your rate and buy leads list. How's that working for you right now? It's really easy to refinance people. 2.5 to 4 is a really good. You got to be some salesperson to make that stuff happen.
I know a video speaking your love language there, Deborah.
Yeah. So Mike, how would you, I think, and I'll give my perspective on this, but I'm curious what you would say. People who want to provide value and they want to do video, where would you tell them to start? How do you really know what's valuable to your audience? And again, that audience could be, I always say there's two different audience that you have. You have the end user, like the consumer, the client who is the one getting the loan, and then you have your partners. Right. So where do you go? How do you advise people of how to give value via video?
Here's the Mike White simplicity formula in full play. You want to know how to make people happy? Ask them what they want and then give it to them. It's no more, everybody's different, okay? Everybody has a different market, a different customer, a different type of referral partner. How about you just ask those people, right? Ask those people what they're looking for. Ask those people, and again, as loan officers, what are the 10 or 12 most frequently asked questions you get in the course of a week, a month, or a year, right? What are the 10 or 12 most frequently asked questions your processor gets from or your closer, or your title company, or your realtor, or your attorney, or your financial planner, whoever it is you're doing business, what are the most frequently asked questions that they get? And then answer them. I know this is like mind-blowing for some people, but it's like with realtors, right? I spent my whole career working the realtor relationship. You go onto my website, I've got all these different channels of videos on how to have different strategies working with your realtors. But when I go out and I train large groups of people, one of the first questions I ask is, how many of you people are working with listing agents on generating their next listing? You say, it's fate, you're in the mortgage business the last couple of years. Everybody's telling me around the world, oh my God, we'd do more business if there was more inventory. The reason we're not more successful is there's not enough inventory. Yo, wake up, people. We've had record-breaking years the last couple of years. Houses are flying out of the marketplace. This whole idea of inventory is a joke. It's an antiquated system of something that no longer is relevant. We need 6 months worth of inventory. Yes, you needed 6 months worth of inventory when it took 6 months to 8 months to sell a house. When houses are selling in 19 days on average, 19 days, You don't need more. A month's worth of inventory is almost like going through the cycle twice, right? I mean, think about it. Oh, this person had to make 4 or 5 offers before they got one accepted. Okay, how about that video? Prepping your borrower and your agent to be in the best possible shape to make their best possible offer, and be buoyed by the fact that there are people who actually found 5 houses that they liked enough to make an offer. See, this is the thing, glass half empty, glass half full. Call me the eternal optimist, okay? Even a guy like me ended up getting married. There was a woman out there who would put up with this, okay? Go think about that.
We have hope again, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, there is. There's always hope, see? Because without hope, you don't even bother anymore. But here I am, right? What do people need to know? It's right in front of you. People ask you the questions they want answers to. Come up with, and again, I don't want Spielberg production stuff for this.
Yeah.
I want 30 seconds to 3 minutes where, because they won't look at it. Okay. Now, if you've got to go into a deeper explanation of something and you want to do a detailed piece to that, sure, make it a link and say, I'm going to explain VA loans, or if you want to spend 10 or 20 minutes explaining something, the person going there is going there because they want all of that information. But if you want to touch on, hey, I saw I can get 100% financing on a VA loan. Are you a veteran? No. Okay, not for you, right? We answered that really quickly. So about what do they do? Where are you? What do you need? What are you trying to accomplish? And for some people, roughly half of my clients, it's not about generating more business. Roughly half of my clients come to me because I go there and I simplify their life and get to their lives back. My clients go on vacation 4 to 6 times a year. They're required to take at least 1 2-week vacation, okay, and 5 weekend vacations unplugged from all of their other stuff. And you sit there and go, well, how the hell is that possible? It's not only possible, it's likely if you schedule it. And by the way, they're far more productive than the people who are running around like crazy. And that is, again, when we say write it down and schedule what you're trying to do, when we look at this, ask for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Everybody's looking to figure out how do they manage their time to either improve themselves or to find new sources of business. You can do both. Just spend 1 more hour a day being proactive versus reactive. Fine. And this will scare everybody. Okay. This is great. Let's scare everybody. Okay. 1 hour a day, turn the damn phone off. Turn off your email alerts on your computer and actually do something. And I don't care whether that's have lunch, read a book, go to the gym or prospect, but stop being interrupted so that you can be proactive. Again, how do you get all these things accomplished? You schedule them. Just like this call today, everybody's busy. Todd's busy, you're busy. I'm the old guy in Florida, so I'll be honest with you. I'm going to wrap up this call and I'm going to pick my grandson up from school and we're going to go swimming. But other than that, the reality of this is we made a commitment, a time. This is when we're going to do this. And you've got all these things, and I may have, you may have to leave early. This Dave got a scheduling. Okay, I get it. We're making it happen. You make it happen by identifying, this is what I want to do, and I need help. And wherever it is that you need help, go get the help. And if you don't know where the help lies, ask somebody, where would you go for this help? Again, a lot of my business comes down to, site visits, whether they be big team people or branches or companies. Can I come? And that's the essence of why I do what I do. I don't have 100 coaches working for me. I'm the guy. And it's always been the balance. And Dave used to say, Mike, why don't you have a bunch of coaches and you could handle a lot more business? And I said, but I can't teach people to do what I do. I have to go in and do this. And by teaching my people in that market, they become the coaches. There are some big mortgage companies out there who have their own coaching platforms that are occupied by people that I once coached. There are coaching people out there right now who have coaching businesses who I once coached. And we don't have to bring up any names because they don't do it the way that I do it. They do it the way they do it. And we all have to understand that. We have to find the way we're going to do it because nobody does it exactly the same way. You can do it your own way and you can be successful. And oh, by the way, what does successful mean? Because success has different meanings for different people, right? And that has got to be, you got to make your choices. What do you want to accomplish? And let's go do it.
I love it. I still don't know if people are more scared of turning off their phone for an hour or waiting 2 weeks for a credit report. You know, been in the business for 22 years. I never had that. I always heard those rumors, but never had to do it. And, you know, of course, all of you who watch all the time, you know, I'm going to talk about this whole idea. I mean, there's nothing better than being proactive. I mean, Mike's used that word numerous times. And it's one of my favorite words, and it's every day in the planner. Was I proactive today or was I reactive? And if you think about what he said, if you could spend an hour where instead of answering your phone every time it rings, you're just doing those outbound calls, right? You heard Deborah talk about it. She knows if she makes a certain number of outbound calls, she's going to grow her business. And that's really the secret sauce. If you're willing to schedule that time, right? That's a word that Mike's used a lot. And then be okay that when the call comes in, that it's not urgent, you don't have to answer it. So a lot of you know, Josh Meadow, we've had him on here a lot. And the way that Josh did his 2 hours of prospecting time for his team every day is all of his team members had their cell phones forwarded to the receptionist. And so if you called Josh, so as Josh's friend, if I would call Josh during that 2 hours of prospecting time, it went to his front desk and they didn't actually put the call through to him unless it was someone he had just called. So think about that. Could you set up, like he actually set up the boundaries where they used a system that made it so that every day all their desk phones automatically forward to the receptionist and they had to manually forward their cell phones. And so they only talked to people who they were proactively calling, or they would jump on the call if somebody called them back who they just left a voicemail for. But think about that. They weren't talking to a realtor who was calling to complain about something. They weren't talking to their buddy who was calling about fantasy football. They were actually being proactive for that 2 hours of time. And guess what? They grew to be one of the biggest teams in the country. So there's a lot to learn from that, you know, for sure. And so I love, Mike, that you're kind of talking about this whole idea of everyone's got to kind of find their own way. Everyone's kind of has to schedule to do that, and they have to be committed. And I love the fact that you say you kind of have to have that goal and that why. So when you said that not enough people know their numbers, how do you want people to start tracking their numbers? How do you want them to get really crystal clear on that?
Well, and again, Dave and I talked about this in the video that we did years ago, and he points out to this as something that's been very meaningful for him, and something I helped him with is really drilling down and simplifying it to the point that says, look, we're in the mortgage business. Okay, what does a transaction look like? Okay, so let's just say first we have to talk to somebody, the initial phone call, right? Then we've got to pre-approve them to be able to go out and either get a loan or be able to take an application to do a loan, right? Then they got to go, if they're purchasing, they've got to go into contract on that property, okay? And then they got to close. So if you think of baseball and say, okay, I get an at-bat. If I can pull credit and see if these people can do something, I made it to first base. If I can pre-approve them based upon their current circumstance, that I've made it to second base. If they go into contract, they've made it to third. And if I close the loan, it's a home run. Not every baseball player hits a home run every time. Every single doesn't turn into a run scored. You don't always get to second base or third base, but you've got to track those things because those numbers tell us a lot. You may get a boatload of initial phone calls, but you don't get a lot of people to give you the actual information so that you can pre-approve them. Well, now we have something to work on, right? If you're not able to go from home to first, we've got to improve your skill set. Some people have virtually everybody that calls them, they get the information to be able to offer them a pre-approval. Okay, great. How many of those pre-approvals go into contract? Not so many. Why? Generally, it's because you didn't stay connected with these. I can't tell you the number of times your loan officers, okay, you got your pre-approval, call me as soon as you go into contract. Oh, it's like a dagger through the heart. I can't take it, right? It's like, no, you have to stay connected to these people, right? Because again, you have to remember, every step along the way is not only communicating with the customer, it's also prospecting. It's also burning those brain cells. It's also surrounding yourself with what they're going through and who they're talking to in the process. Again, checking those numbers is how many, what do I do each day? All new people that come into my system, the first thing is that you're going to get a notebook and you're going to write down from the time you think you started work in the morning to the time you said you were done working for the day. I need you to make a note of what you did and how long it took. That's the biggest eye-opening thing I do for people, because they look down and they go, oh my God, I did all this stuff and I didn't accomplish anything. I say, yeah, because 2 or 3 or 4 hours of the day, you were trying to figure out what was next. See, and that goes back to understanding the numbers. Or setting your day. When I say, I'm going to make those 15 phone calls. Great. When? How long do those 15 phone calls, each 20 minutes, or are they each 3 minutes, right? Or you say, well, if I stay unplugged for 2 hours, half the people fell off their chairs, right? Because they would be unthinkable to turn off their phone or to silence their emails for 2 hours. They couldn't wrap their mind around that. But you could do it for 15 minutes at first. And then you could do it for a half hour. And then you could do it for an hour. See, you can build toward those experiences where you get comfortable. The world didn't come to it. You said with Josh, and it went to this, to the receptionist. Great. I have my people just change their voicemail message. Hi, it's Mike White. I have meetings and appointments scheduled throughout the day. I'll be returning phone calls and emails between 9 and 10, 1 and 2, and 4 and 5. Please leave your name and number and which one of those times is most convenient for me to call, and I'll be happy to call you back then. If you'd like to start the application process, you can go to my website, blah, 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 right? It's like, it doesn't have to be, the smartphone. It's smart that it's got us all attached to it. But my kids lose their minds because I don't answer the phone. It very rarely does it ever ring, because everybody that knows me knows, don't bother calling him. He's not going to answer the damn thing. My own kids send me messages or emails to schedule an appointment to talk about whatever it is that we're doing. Why? Because I'll make time for anybody, but I'm not going to be a slave to the phone and say, oh my God, I missed a call. That's a problem, right? So when you're looking at your numbers, what is my database? Who are my referral partners? How many referrals do I need to do a pre-approval? How many pre-approvals do I need for those deals to go into contract? How many of those contracts end up closing? You've got to know that math, because the only way to sit there and say, I'm going to close 100 loans or 200 loans or 500 loans a year. Well, what do I need every day, right? Because this is one of those things that most loan officers look at this thing and they're not going to close a loan every day. So if the only measure of success that you have is closing a loan, and you didn't close 365 loans, you were unsuccessful? I don't think so. There's a lot of people that would be closing 100, 125, 200 loans a year, be thrilled, right? Be absolutely thrilled. But the point is what are the things that I do to lead that? And only you know where your time goes. And sometimes, to be honest with you, it's painful to look at it when you realize, boy, I've been busy, but that's why I'm broke. There are so many broke, busy people. You can go anywhere and you can see them. People running around offices like their hair's on fire, okay, and they get nothing done. Everybody that's listening to this call right now or watching it has somebody in their office that's that person who runs around like their hair's on fire, okay? And, they close 2 loans a month or 3 loans a month, and you go, and they're working 60, 70 hours a week. My God, it's exhausting, right?
You know what I call that, Mike?
People that are more productive.
I call that the busy being busy. I call it the rocking chair syndrome, where you're busy being busy, but you're not going anywhere. There may be a lot
Right.
of movement, but you're not going anywhere.
You're right. And some people mistake being busy for being productive. And it's the same thing. People think easy is the same as being simple. It's not. The words mean different things. And you have to pay attention to them. And I cringe, and my clients will tell you, I can hear them almost say the word when we're on the phone with each other. I was really active this past week, right? They want to say, oh, it was really a busy week because it's a thing they're used to saying. But when I asked them, no, we had really good activity last week. Okay. Just try to get rid of, sometimes the words make all the difference. Sometimes the schedule makes all the difference. But when we look at these numbers, you've got to start somewhere. And it starts with wherever you are now, whoever this is, who's on this call, who's in fear of, and let's be honest, we're going to have losses and attrition in the mortgage business. There's going to be thousands of people who are not going to have jobs in our industry that had them. And some of it is inexcusable because they could have made it. They could have stayed had they adjusted and adapted to what they needed to do going forward. And they just don't know. And like I said before, you're successful and you're not successful because either you don't know what to do or you won't do. So the first thing to start out by doing is saying, this is mandatory. You got to do the brain dump. What are you doing now? Is it what's working for you? What's not? What do you want to work better? What do you think you're missing? And then get help, right? If I would just have more video and stuff like this and be more active in social media, I could do this. I don't know where to start. Call Deborah, right? She'll tell you I can give you an outline of whatever, but she can make it happen for you. Why try to figure it out for yourself? You're going to go watch a YouTube video on how to be, because let's be honest, if you want to be in the mortgage business, you can go online and you can go to YouTube or whatever, and you can see all sorts of people telling you how to be a loan officer and generate purchase, business and whatever. And you can also see people telling you, oh my God, we're all going to die because interest rates are going to be 20%, next year. The reality of it is you got to trust the resource. You got to trust the source. You got to find people who can give you stuff that makes sense, just makes sense. And if it doesn't, talk to somebody who it does make sense for.
I just love that idea of I've been busy, but that's why I'm broke. I think it's, again, I'm going back to that because I feel like, you and I have so much in common in our beliefs. And I do think that it's really difficult. You said there's going to be a ton of attrition, and I think we could argue both sides. But on one hand, we could be like, oh yeah, for all of us who've been in the business for a long time, it's great that those people who just jumped in last year, right? The statistics were 40% growth in licensed loan officers last year.
Yep.
And so I know a lot of you are cheering when they go, but some of you are the people who've been in the business for less than a year. And we want to cheer you on in this community so that you're not one of those statistics. So again, let's kind of shift towards the new loan officers that Dave and I have been really talking about a lot in this community. How would you encourage the new loan officer today to, maybe think or act a little different than what they're seeing the rest of the loan officers in their offices doing? Is it just all the things that you've said so far, schedule, be proactive, or is there some other action you would encourage them to take?
I think take full advantage of every opportunity. I think one of the biggest holes that loan officers, especially new ones, do not take advantage of is looking around them and realizing that everybody is a potential referral partner. Everybody can send you an opportunity. Everybody, let's be honest, everybody lives somewhere, right? You either own where you live or you rent where you live, very few people in between. So if you rent where you live, you probably wish you owned where you live because your rent just got jacked up beyond all measurable creation. And now home ownership looks like a pretty good idea. Or you own where you live and either you want to make it more cost effective or you want to sell it and go buy where you really would like to be, right? Those people, we talk again about that database. the 500 people in the database, if you realize that, in any given year, those 500 people in the database, 35 to 50 of them are going to move. How many of them are going to call you? And why aren't they? Of the other 450 people in that database, how many of them refer you during the course of the year? And why not? If you had 50 loan opportunities to go to bat on, and you had another 450 opportunities to discuss, if you knew your math, you'd know how many loans that turned into, right? But we don't look at this and say, hey guys, pay attention, big picture, right? That you're the new loan officer, and have a better way of getting in front of people. And even if it's just taking 10 of your business cards out of your pocket and making the commitment every day to go out and run into 10 people and exchange information with them. Just exchange information with 10 people. And whether you got their, home address or their email address or whatever, connect with them, right? Connect with that. Hey, last week it was, put it on your calendar. You got nothing else better to do. I went out between 9 o'clock in the morning and noon. I talked to 10 people, and I put into my schedule 1 o'clock next week. I'm going to call every one of those 10 people and touch base with them just to say hello, right? Well, now you have something positive to do. If you did that every day, next thing you know, you've collected 50 names and you're making 50 phone calls. Okay, how much further does that advance the ball, right? And what if you decide after that first follow-up phone call, you're going to follow up with them in a month? See, you got the basis of building a database and building opportunities. And do the stuff that doesn't cost you a whole hell of a lot of money up front if you don't have it, right? I see a lot of people maxing out their credit card. I've got some people who've actually come to me, and Dave will tell you, they're in rough shape. And they got kids and whatever, and they just started and they gave up another job. What are they gonna blah, blah, blah? And it's like, hey, relax, I'll help you. Okay, pay me back when this stuff starts working for you. All right. And most of the time, I end up getting my money back. And the times that I don't is because the people did what? They didn't want to do what they needed to do in order to be successful. If you want to be successful, you will be. Right? You can, and there's two ways. You can find somebody who's successful and emulate them, or you can find somebody who's unsuccessful and just don't do what they're doing. Okay, I'm trying to keep this as basic as possible, because there are a lot of people in our industry right now who are just assume they made a lot of money the last couple of years. So there are a lot of people that are out there who want to take advantage of the fact that people either have money or they have credit cards, and they will do anything to go, because they were doing 15 loans a month and now they're doing 2, right? And they want you to pony up to, here's the product, here's the thing. The beauty part is you guys, again, we're on a mortgage coach call, right? It's like, it doesn't cost you any money to do a TCA for a house that's listed, right? And email it to the listing agent and say, here, if you're doing open houses, you could do a TCA for the open house that you're going to that weekend, and send it to the seller and say, by the way, I know you're probably going to buy another house, so this is what I made up for somebody buying your house. If you'd like one of these for the house that you're thinking about buying, give me a call. Is that going to work every time? No. But will it work? Yes. See, it's about the numbers. You have to do enough things that give you enough opportunities to get to where you need to be, because ultimately, here's a great secret. You don't have to be all that successful to be very successful in the mortgage business, right?
It's funny you say that, because it's true, right? I mean, we're a highly compensated industry, and there's a ton of opportunity. And I love your idea of open house strategy for TCAs. Think about that. You have a printer, you've got ink, you can email it, that's free, but you could also just print it out and you can staple it together. You can bring it over and leave as a leave behind, because certainly whatever flyer they have with whatever other loan officer's picture on it doesn't really give the client what they want and what's in a TCA. So I love that point. And in Dave's absence, I'm glad that we brought the TCA in here, maybe in the 11th hour, but that's all right. We brought it in.
Stays fresh in their head. But and again, I have all sorts of, again, in the strategies that I work with my people, all of these people sit there and say, well, I go to open houses. And then you sit there with a realtor who's probably not the listing agent, who's trying to snag a buyer, right? And most likely isn't going to be successful. But you didn't have a game plan for, did we do Facebook Live an hour before the house, we went live? If I did that TCA and I printed them out, right? If you're in a neighborhood where you can do that, why wouldn't you go to the local neighbors before the open house starts, knock on the door and leave them a TCA? Hey, the house down the block is listed for sale. It's going to sell in a couple of days. If you know anybody who's interested or you're thinking about selling yourself, and give them this, right? Again, if you gave out 20 of those, it would take you 15 or 20 minutes to drop them off and knock on some doors and leave it for some people along with your card. And it may not work. You may have to go to, oh my God, 10 open houses before you finally get a deal for doing it. But what did it cost you? $8 in paper and ink to what's your average transactional value? See, you got to play the long game, right? You got to play the long game here, because you don't know who's behind that next door. You don't know who's coming to that open house. That seller is moving. That listing agent, the one that listed the house, not the rookie who's sitting there minding the open house, start seeing the TCA. Maybe that's when you get the phone call, because that agent who's in that open house may talk to you because they got nothing else better to do. That listing agent's never calling you unless you present them with some value. The seller starts talking about how great they thought that piece of information was. Now all of a sudden that realtor's calling you on the phone. How about we have a novel idea? How about you make the realtors come to you?
It's funny you say that, because I follow Jessie Prince on Instagram. She's a Win by Noon user, and last weekend she went to open houses and she did a video. She did in the story, here's the open house outside, and then she took her favorite part of the open house from the inside, and pretty sure she tagged the real estate agent as well. I mean, what a great way to show an agent who you just walked in and met that you're actually helping out there, promoting them by doing a video of their open house. I love you said do the live before the open house starts. What a great opportunity. And again, it takes your time. So right, your time is money, but if you're not closing any loans, hey, you've got time. And certainly don't want you taken away from your family weekend time, but maybe you can just carve out an hour and go do some of that.
Again, when you go and preview the open house, and again, you could leave a note for the seller. Here's the TCA. I love your house. I know it's going to sell quickly. And give them a personal feature: bedroom, living room, patio, pool, whatever. Make it personal. See, leave it for them. See, you've got to be presenting value to people unrequested. You just got to keep presenting value to the world. And what happens is you get it back. And you don't, again, for the average person watching this, 10 to 15 units a month in their marketplace, at their price point, at their commission schedule, is probably an above average living for them, without a doubt. Okay. So maybe you have to take 60 or 70 or 80 or 100 swings in order to close 10 or 15 units. So what? What else are you doing?
I love it. All right. So final thoughts. We're at the 2 minutes to the hour, and I want to get you to school to get to your grandson and get out and do some swimming. Last thoughts that you have before we send these loan officers out to go be productive for the rest of their day.
Hey, take full advantage of your tools, right? I know one thing working with Dave over the years, and I said it before, you've got the Mortgage Coach tool. Most people do not adopt it as something they do every single time. You've got to integrate it into your business, and you got to look where that tool can help you, whether it's the listing agent, whether it's the seller. You get tax returns on some of your clients, send it to the accountant. You get financial statements from people, send it to the financial planner. You've got people who are divorced and you have a divorce attorney involved in the trend, and you got divorce, send it to the divorce attorney. Okay. You only have to win one, right? People, that will never work. Well, I'm sorry, it does work, because I'm living proof, and my clients are living proof that, yeah, maybe I sent out 100 of them and I only have 5 referral partners, right? Oh, well, I'll take the 5 referral partners. So just, if you need help, ask for help. Okay. The tools are here. If you don't know how to use Mortgage Coach to its full ability, there's so much help to learn how to use it. If you don't have the ideas on what you should do, or you want a better explanation about what I was talking about, email me, mike@imtcoaching.com. I will take time and walk you through it. Okay. This is a critical piece of time because we can't save everybody, but the people that we can save are going to thrive like crazy, because for every person that was 70% refi, 30% purchase that abandons the business, they're leaving those 3 purchases, okay, that 30% of the business available for the other people who are still here. Be the one that makes a decision to win.
All right, you guys know that is exactly what I believe. And so here are my coaching thoughts at the end about taking action. We all know this about taking action. And Mike said some of my favorite words. He said, commit. He said, schedule. He said a phrase, know your numbers. He said so much. He said, don't be busy, be proactive. And so what I would encourage you to do, number one, is check out Mike and the coaching services that he offers. I didn't say he and his team, that he offers. He already said it. He is the guy. And so there's a great opportunity to learn from him. And I would just go back and just think through some of the things that he said. He gave you the questions as a loan officer, whether you're experienced or new in this shifting market, that you need to be asking yourself in order to make sure that you are doing the right activities going forward. So on behalf of Dave and the whole crew at Mortgage Coach, myself and the team at Win by Noon, and Deborah and her team over at Plug and Play, thanks for watching. We can't wait to see you next week. Don't forget that Scriptapalooza is in 10 days. On the 8th will be our 5th annual. We're super excited to have you all there for that special 2-hour call. Remember, you have to register though. So go to the Mortgage Coach page and register there. And of course, thanks to Robert behind the scenes. You guys all have a great weekend. We look forward to seeing you on the next call on Tuesday. Have a great one.